Hello, welcome to the Morning Serve, brought to you by 9 Now. Every court live and free on 9 Now at the Australian Open for 2025. I'm Nick McArdle. Alicia Molik is here. Alicia, is this the biggest day for Aussie tennis at the Australian Open since Ash Barty's win?
I think it would have to be. I think particularly given the momentum behind Alex De Minaur as well, the type of tennis he's playing, coming in ranked the top 10, being seeded as high as he has been in the men's draw, and a genuine chance now, I think, to get really, really close to winning this event. All
right, there's a lot to talk about today. Let's have a look at what is coming up on the Morning Serve. Sinner's sickness. He didn't look good the other day, Jannik Sinner. Where is he at? Demon's job ahead, so into the quarterfinal for the first time here at the Australian Open, and we'll have a look at the women's quarters as well. But yeah, given all the travel and hotels and everything that players have to do when they're in a strange city and the people they mix with and the places they go, is it any surprise to you that maybe Jannik Sinner might have picked up a bit of a bug or something?
No, not really. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances yesterday. I did hear via the press that he'd woken up, wasn't feeling great with his stomach. I have seen him here actually dine in the same restaurant every single day for lunch. It's level floor, it's a Spanish restaurant. That's where Carlos Alcaraz tends to have his lunch as well. They only position themselves about 3 tables from each other, but it's part and parcel. I think for Jannik Sinner, in his match where the net broke, and he had the additional 20 to 25 minutes of rest time.
Yep.
It kind of all meshed and gelled, and it was a bit of great fortune for him. I think he will bounce back, given he has the extra 24-hour rest and the day off.
So just, you think back to your career, and you must have woken up on days and just thought, I'm just not into this. I'm just not up to it today. How do you get through it mentally?
I think it happens to everyone, and I think it's natural, particularly when you're constantly travelling. But I think even in Grand Slams, I mean, it's twice as tough because you need to feel good every day, or as good as you can for 2 weeks. And that's why only the best in the business win Grand Slams. Not only do they know how to take care of their bodies, but also pace themselves. They're great at their recovery as well. I think he'll personally be fine. I know the temperature's going to drop a little bit for that match against Alex, so I think Sinner will be ready to go after rest, but a tall order for Alex.
It was a bit of a tough watch, Jannik Sinner, to see him in that much distress. A couple of times he looked to almost, be fainting, not being able to stand on his own 2 feet. To get through that, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was incredibly gutsy, and obviously not feeling great within himself and his stomach. It probably was incredibly difficult to hold down the appropriate amount of electrolytes, even nutrition. So he probably did go out there with a pretty empty stomach, but it's just a true, testament to his character, because he got himself up when it really, really mattered in the crucial moments.
I've seen a couple of players throughout this tournament, and they've faced an injured player or an ill player at the other end of the court. They've been a little bit all at sea. They haven't quite known how to handle it. How does Alex De Minaur handle it with Sinner at the other end of the court, maybe wondering if he's 100%? You just have to put all of that out of your mind.
Yeah, I think he has to expect that Jannik will be at his 100% best, and that's where the danger can be, when you're anticipating perhaps a player not at their best or trying to focus too much on their injury. You don't tend to play your natural game. So I think for Alex, really important that he hones in on his strengths. He's been moving so well. I like the fact that he's been really aggressive from his forehand wing. I'm pretty sure, too, in this encounter, he'll make Jannik work exceptionally hard in the first set and really sort of test him out physically, having known what Jannik went through in his prior match.
So, Alex, through to the first quarterfinal, that's been such a talking point in itself. Can he make it further than the 4th round? So, he's leapt that psychological hurdle. Does he have to just put that behind him now? Like, not even think about the fact that he's further than he's ever been before?
No, I think it's an important part to, forging forward. I think you want to recognise your achievements at the same time. I also think Alex is a different player this year because of what he's achieved coming into this Australian Open. It's new territory because he doesn't just belong, but he's a mainstay in the top 10 now. So he comes in with an incredible level. I don't think he questions himself anymore. He's put on, I think, a lot of muscle mass and size. So he's well equipped now to carry himself through this second week. Serving department will probably have to lift a little bit with his percentage. I think he was around the 42 or 43% mark of first serves in his last match. That's going to be pretty critical against arguably one of the best returners in the men's game.
Everyone, I've heard you guys talk about, the muscle mass and the fact he is a bit bigger, and he's still like a rabbit around the court. Still chases everything down. We saw that in his fourth round match. What are the weapons, though? When we hear you say, oh, he's added some weaponry, what are the weapons?
Yeah, I think he's added extra speed on the ball. I think he's added extra speed on the ball earlier within the points. I think typically, if you looked back at Alex's game, 24 months ago, he was more of a counterpuncher, and I think he'd rally guys into the ground. And now I think he has the weaponry and the arsenal to take it to the best in men's tennis earlier. I think he's pulling the punch earlier in rallies, but his forehand is so damaging. I feel like players are really pressured into going for the lines too much against Alex, and that's where he gets a lot of errors now. But he's a much more aggressive and complete player now than, and I think belief too plays a huge role in him wanting to play bigger and effective tennis. He does everything very well, but he moves exceptionally well. When we talk about muscle mass and size, it's motoring around the court, but it's also, I think, on the recovery days, it certainly has helped him here, and it's helped beef up his serve as well.
Is it a fine balance where you're trying to increase a bit of size and put on a bit of muscle, but maintaining the speed and the endurance as well? Is that a fine balance?
Yeah, I haven't seen any decrease in speed from Alex at all. I mean, if not, he's probably even more balanced on the court. He used to throw himself around a lot more. But yeah, I think it can only really help him. And he's tried to, as I mentioned, beef up areas of his game. But I think it helps him with the recovery. He's trying to add a little bit more on every single shot. He wants a long career, so it's not about the now as well. It's also about his future, and probably planning to go up against players like, Alcaraz and Sinner, these guys. Everyone has a different body type, but you need to be as strong and dynamic as you can be. And I think that's why Alex right now is at his prime.
Okay, so we did this with John Millman, ask him to take us into the war room, if you like, the planning to take down a player. So if you're planning to take down Jannik Sinner, a guy who's number one in the world...
Wish I knew.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. Where do you go? Where do you attack? What are the keys that can be, or the locks that can be unlocked?
Yeah, I think, if I was Alex, the first thing I would be doing is speaking to players that have beaten him. You don't want to be talking to guys who've lost to him in the locker room. You want to go straight to the source and find out exactly how those guys felt in certain moments. I mean, with all the technology now and analytics, there's no question his team would have been looking into that. But Alex, having known Jannik's had a rough 48 hours, he wants to keep him out on the court as long as possible, make it incredibly difficult for Sinner to win points early on in the match. So I think there's a few keys there. Jannik loves to take the ball nice and early. Perhaps Alex will try and match him in that department. I think that's something he can do. But I think he'll try and draw him forward as well with his slice. It will be so interesting to watch. I can't wait. Just
amongst the players, and you mix with the players and you talk to the former Aussie players, as punters, we're excited about this matchup. How excited is the tennis community, the inner circle, about this matchup?
Yeah, it's as exciting for the tennis fraternity as it is, I think, for the crowds, for the person at home on the couch, for you, us in the media. It's what a great matchup, because I think there's the added interest. You've got a past champion here, the best player in the game at the moment, up against our Aussie Alex. How can Jannik possibly beat our Aussie Alex? So it'll be really interesting as well to see how the crowds treat this match as well. I think Alex has been better at drawing emotion and energy from the crowd, and I think he'll do that very early on in this match as well.
All right, so much focus on those two players. Maybe not as much focus on Alina Svitolina throughout this tournament. She's just crept quietly through, and here she is in a quarterfinal. She has an amazing record against Russian players, her being Ukrainian, since the war in Ukraine. Is she playing something or for something more than just herself?
I think she's always, as long as I've known Elena as a teenager, has always been incredibly proud to play for her nation, represent her nation, bring her nation, prosperity and joy, and it's no different now. She's such a competitive beast, no matter who she's playing on the tennis court, and her resilience is, I think, second to none with what she has gone through, her nation, as well as I think the fact that, and now being a mother, along with Gael as a father, navigating the professional circuit with a different set of circumstances. We're still seeing some of the best of Alina Svitolina, so real credit to her.
Is she one of the best players of her generation not to have won a Grand Slam title?
Yeah, I think she's one of them. I think knocking on the door next would be, who's a little bit younger, but Madison Keys.
Yep.
I really feel like, oh, she could win this Australian Open, actually. I probably feel that strongly about the level of tennis Madison Keys is playing. But definitely Elena is up there, Madison is up there, and I'll get back to you with a longer list. But they're two for me that, they played big games, they're feisty, and they're great competitors. So I'd love to see them enjoy a slam win.
So that adds intrigue to this matchup, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because we're seeing the best of Elena right now. We're seeing the best of Madison Keys right now. It was a great example last week or a week and a half ago in Adelaide, the way Keys was able to win in 3 sets against Jess Pegula. She's changed her racket frame. She's now using a Yonex, and all of a sudden has this incredible control mixed with the ease and the power that she possesses. So she hits the ball as big as anyone in the event. I mean, between Keys, Sabalenka, maybe a Badosa forehand, you've got probably the 3 biggest forehands there. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup. The difference, though, is the ability for Keys to get all the freebies from her serve. I don't think Elena is really going to enjoy also returning the real heavy kick serves. And that's why Maddie's so good right now. I think she's mixing her pace with enough spin, and that's something that perhaps she hasn't done as much in the past.
I think we saw that at the back end of her 4th round match, the way she closed that out with just pure aggression. It was more than just a win. It was like a statement at the end of that match.
Yeah, she's such a pleasure to watch, because it's just easy power. For a lot of players, it takes so much effort for their body and for them to throw themselves into each shot, grunting. For Maddie, it just looks like she's in second gear, and she produces the quickest forehands on tour. So I'm really excited for her prospects here at the Australian Open. It's really well deserved. Her husband, or she's been recently married, her husband Bjorn, coaching her as well. So it's a fabulous scenario for both here.
How would you have been coached by your husband?
I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have thought about it, wouldn't have done it. No thanks.
Iga Swiatek, she's made a semi-final here, but is it fair to say she hasn't found her best tennis here in Melbourne over the years?
I think you're probably spot on there, although here at the Australian Open in her last match, I haven't seen a Iga with more clarity before. I haven't seen Iga use the amount of spin that she's used to create a lot of angles. Her service picked up a lot. It's a smoother motion. She's getting a little bit more pop on her serve. Second serve is much better. I mean, there's a few more items on the list. So I just feel that she's at a place in her life too where she's got things in order. The new partnership with her coach, Wim, has obviously been paying dividends, because it is noticeable from the commentary box. And I think this is the best Australian Open that I've seen her compete in. So the sky's the limit here. And she's barely lost, I think she's lost a handful of games.
Yeah. Do you love the fact, and this was identified a couple of years ago at Wimbledon, where, she's always had that big take back, and she was stuck for time on the grass, and she received advice from all sorts of people saying, you've got to go away and remodel things a little bit. To see a player having done that and make these tweaks, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's a good reminder. That's what they are. They're just really slight tweaks. You're not, I don't think coaches try and reinvent the wheel when they're dealing with a multiple Grand Slam champion. And but a real credit to her as well for being open to it. You see so many greats of the game that win slams, get to number 1 in the world, be a little bit too stubborn to make technical changes in particular. They've won a Grand Slam, why change now? But, I mean, we've seen it with Iga, we've seen it with Sinner, we've seen it with Alcaraz, with his serve. Various aspects of players' games. Coco with her forehand, it's very minor, a minor change, but it just really does help these athletes. So I love the fact that they're really open-minded to learning, and Iga certainly is.
So is Iga the favourite now to be able to take it up to Aryna Sabalenka? And if she isn't, then who is?
Yeah, I think she's at the level now that she can withhold, hold her own from the back of the court. I think in the past, Sabalenka has dominated her a little too much, especially in the forehand-to-forehand rallies. I feel like Iga's at the point in time on this surface here at the Australian Open where she can match it with Sabalenka. Certainly in the last match, her forehand was faultless. I still think Iga will be trying to create more backhand-to-backhand rallies. I think we'll see a lot of that happen. But it's really the serving department, isn't it, that Sabalenka is just supreme in, ahead of the rest of the field. So I think for Iga, she might be hoping that Arena's a little off in the serving department, and hopefully she'll get a look in on a lot of second serve returns. But, you know, Arena's at her best, Iga's at her best. Thank God it's happened here at the Australian Open.
It's outstanding. There is so much to look forward to and so many questions to be answered over the next few days. The first one of which, the one we're really looking forward to, Alex De Minaur and Jannik Sinner. Can you possibly step outside your patriotism and tip anyone else but Alex De Minaur? Yeah,
I think if it's 5 sets, Alex can win. I think if it's 3, it will go Jannik. 4, we might be tossing the John Newcombe coin. But so that's probably how I feel about it. I think conditions definitely play a part, how Yannick's feeling. But I'm so excited by the brand of tennis Alex De Minaur is playing. Anything's possible. He's been shifting up gears every single match, and I expect he still will again. So there's a lot more great tennis from Alex here.
Good stuff, Alicia. Thank you very much. And
thanks, Nick.
Thank you once again for your company on the Morning Serve.
Wide World of Sports on YouTube is your home of the tennis this summer.
With highlights of the best matches of the summer of tennis, the on-court interviews and every day with the Morning Serve, you'll be ahead of the game.
So click that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing this summer.